Hello everyone and welcome back to Mark Anthony's Music Picks. Today is episode 166, and as the title for the episode suggests, we're going to be talking about dub techno today. I themed this episode Dub Techno in the Box, and if you're curious what my box is, it's that little section to the left of my turntable back there. That's basically where I put the records that are like in rotation, so to speak, that I'm playing a lot. And I haven't done a dub techno episode in probably 7 or 8 months, so I definitely had some music to cover for you. I put a lot of thought into this. I always try to curate the best tracks for you, and I try to make sure that the quality level is always like up there. At least 4 stars for all of these tracks, and a few of them are 5-star in my opinion. So let's get started here. I did these in chronological order, so we'll go back, and some of these are older records. So let's go back. Let's go all the way back to 2005. And this is I almost was not going to include this one in the episode because it's kind of a genre stretch to call this dub techno, but it is referenced as dub techno. The record is on Discogs, and I understand why. This is a really weird record by the artist Jekyll Maxon, which is obviously a play on the words for Michael Jackson. Jekyll is a tech house producer, I would say primarily, and he's been producing since 2004 and is still active today as far as I can tell. And he's always been a weird, eclectic producer. When I think of modern tech house, I think of tracks that are very formulaic in a lot of regards, easy to mix, and sometimes so easy to mix that you could probably, especially with sync and being able to see the waveforms on modern CDJs and such, it's like such a given that it would be easy to blend that. I mean, you could be really drunk, right? You could be really drunk and DJing and still put tracks like modern tech house together rather easily, especially with good equipment. But to kind of like contrast that, Jekyll Maxon, his tracks have always been kind of weird, and they have a strange arrangement, and what's happening in the first 1/3 of the record isn't necessarily what's happening in the middle, and then by the time you get to the end, the beginning and the end are completely different in a lot of cases in his records. So I always respected that he takes chances when he produces, and he has a really good ear. He chooses really good elements, and I think his tracks would have a tendency to go off on systems, right, and get crowd responses. For whatever reason, he just doesn't seem to get popular, and it's almost like he doesn't want to be popular somehow. Like he's somehow deliberately staying in the strictly underground sphere for tech house, which, you know, maybe that's fine by him. If you look on Discogs, there's just like a couple of old pictures. He doesn't have like a model photo of himself, so I get the impression that he's just a talented producer that could do without the fame very easily, just doesn't care, and he just puts out quality music, and he's been doing so for literally 2 decades now. This is one of, I mean, he's an eccentric producer, but this is really one of the most eccentric records that he's ever done. It's called the Breitling Orbiter 8, Orbiter 8, and it's weird. The first track has a long duration. It's about 19 or 20 minutes. And then the other tracks on the B side are about 8 to 10 minutes long, if I remember correctly. And the track that I wanted to feature for you here is the one on the A side. It's called Tea Trinken in Brownen Salon. No, I probably could have like translated that or plugged that into Google to see if it means anything. I didn't even bother. Man, as far as trying to describe this record to you, this is one where I almost have to let the sample do the work for me because it's so all over the place. I mean, genres that came to mind while I was listening to this are dub techno, deep techno, tech house. There's some acid elements in there, minimal. It's truly a hodgepodge, an amalgamation, if you would, of many genres just being flung together. But Jekyll makes it sound good. I The reason that I'm even featuring this in the Dub Techno episode is because the sample that I captured for you is from about 2/3 of the way through the record. It does sound like Dub Techno, the classic skanks, but it sounds like they were sent through like some kind of vocoder of with a robot effect on it. So it's like if you took a Dub Techno track and made it, or a Dub Techno element and made it into a robot, or a robot sound, is the best way that I can describe this for you. So I also think that fundamentally maybe the track has deep techno undertones, but if you were hanging out in your space and you're like, oh, I'm gonna do a dub techno session tonight, either I'm gonna mix it together or I'm just gonna low key sit and listen and play, this would definitely go down in that environment, right? You turn the lights down low and maybe turn on like the lights in your room. Get everything set up correctly, turn the system up, this track will rock. So I'm gonna call it Tea Trinkin' to keep it short, and let me know what you think of this in the comments. I think it's a phenomenal record. So my friend Tim Humphrey recommended this to me, and I had it in my wish list for a while. This is the classic artist Quantech, appearing on Echocord from 2008. I was able to get like almost a near mint VG++ copy on Discogs just this year, and I double check anytime I buy anything on Echocord. Echocord to me is like the most mainstream dub techno label out there, but that doesn't mean that it's not good. It just means that there's a tendency for the artists when they release on that label to do a little bit more of a vanilla dub techno sound. And to the untrained ear, or to somebody that like prefers other genres, they could probably listen to Echocord and come to the conclusion that they all sound the same, because they kind of sort of do, but only from a distance. That being said, I do think that this album was a good score, at least so far. I mean, to be fair, I only listened to the C and D side because that happened to be the first record that I grabbed out of it. And the track that got my attention is the D1, and it's called Yahe. It's spelled Y-A-G-E. And I only know how to pronounce that because I plugged it into Google before this episode. I'm like, I'm not going to call it Yagi or Yagi. And I have people clowning me in the comments. So it's pronounced Yahe, which is a reference to ayahuasca. Cool. Now I understand the vibe that the producer was going for, Quantech, when he made this. I love the element in here with this is like all sub bass. It's absolutely littered with sub bass, and the sub bass reminded me a lot of the sub basses that Richie Hawtin was using at the same time with his Minus crew. So the Minus crew, Mark Howell, Richie Hawtin, I can't think of Magda, right? That whole gang that was sort of like traveling and touring, Heartthrob. Yeah, who else? Matthew Johnson was in there, or at least appearing as a producer, not as a DJ. But either way, they all had like kind of like the same sound kits that they were using, and the one of the bass lines was kind of just like a low bass dig, just like a one note that bent down like into oblivion, and you can hear that same type of bass used here. I also thought that the reverb on the elements in the higher end of the track went off really nicely. Like in my small room here, probably they're not opening up as much as they could, but in something like a big warehouse space or something that had walls that tended to reflect the sound, I think it would really bring out the character of this track. So check this out. I'm hoping that the rest of the album is as good as Yahe on the D1. I haven't really dug into it fully yet, but this is Quantech, his album Unusual Signals. Now this will be my second time referencing Matthew O on this channel. I discovered Matthew O, I think 2 years ago, listening to records on the Outlaw label, which is his label. It's a subtle, kind of easy to overlook label. If you look at the cover art, or I'm sorry, the stamp, there is no cover art for any of their releases. The stamp is just this Asian guy with a hat. I'm sure he is somebody significant. I just don't know who it is. And they all more or less look like this. You just have to read the fine print to see which release you have in your hand. Matthew O is, in my opinion, a 5-star tech house and mostly dub techno producer, but he kind of has like a tech house flavor or vibe to his tracks, like 80% dub techno, 20% tech house to me, at least. I just think he's talented. I like his sound. I would be comfortable buying pretty much any track that he has put out without even listening to it. Like, I think he's that good. This, to me, is a 5-star dub techno record, and I chose the track A1. I'm going to try to pronounce this as Disambiguation. It's got to be 8 or 9 minutes long. I haven't checked the duration on YouTube or anything, but it's long and groovy, a track that you can really settle into. There's a few tracks every year where for whatever reason, when I'm just listening, a lot of times in the evening, I'll settle down, grab like 5 or 6 records that I want to listen to, and just passively listen to them. I'm not DJing them for the most part. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I'm just kind of just doing a listening session, and for whatever reason, I just catch the wave on certain tracks, and it only happens maybe 3 or 4 times out of the entire year, out of all my listening. But Disambiguation just absolutely really, really got me. I mean, it was just like, this is the perfect Mark Anthony track. I love the bass. I love how the elements contrast in the higher frequencies with the bass. It's just something to just sit there, and even by yourself, you could just sit there and arm pump and just imagine what it would do to a crowd and a floor. So again, Matthew O, I really appreciate your label. I love your sound. Keep producing, man. To me, I think you're really super talented. And Outlaw might not be a famous label now, but I could see it years from now, even after you potentially decommission the label and stop releasing. I can see people always coming back to this. So great job, Matthew, and check his label out, Outlaw. Haven't done any Sushitechs in a while. I love Sushitech. If I could send a message to Yasi, the owner and curator of Sushitech, it would be to get back to doing original releases instead of resurrecting the artists from the 90s. I understand that some of those tracks are good, but I don't know. I'm personally just done with the reissues and digging back and it's like every time something new comes out now, I have to make sure that it wasn't already released in 1997 on a different label and it's hard to get. You know what I mean? Like I would just prefer novel music to be released because I think I've been collecting Sushitech records since like 2012 or 2013. When Sushitech was in its prime was probably like 2015 to 2017, in my opinion. And that's when there was just like a whole collective of artists that were coming together to drop new sounds on the label. So I think that's when they were doing like the highest quality, the best output for Sushitech. The reissues, it's just like I could just do without them. And I guess part of it too is the fact that I don't really like 90s sound that much. Like it's hard to pull off late 90s tech house. A lot of it still sounds dated. Every once in a while you get one that was like way ahead of its time, but for the most part it's not the sound for me. But I did see that Sushitech released the Per Hamar triple pack or quadruple pack. It's like a huge vinyl. I think it was like $40 or something like that. I still haven't gone through it and sifted that one, but I might invest in that one if the quality's up there. But yeah, this is from Sushitech's prime, in my opinion. It was the original album that this reconstructed series is based on is the Paul Saint Hilaire and Router. They did Deordoc, or gosh, that word is absolutely brutal to pronounce. Deordoc, something like that. It was a triple album, very high quality, 5 stars, that was dub and dub techno, and it came out in 2016. Router as a producer is somebody that I've always regarded very highly, and when you pair him up with a vocalist like Paul, it's like of course magic is going to happen. In fact, anywhere that you see those two guys' names together on a release, just buy it. Just buy it. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. So anyways, reconstructed series, there were 3 in this, and literally every track on all 3 of these records is great. And there's some crazy good remixes on there. They're still affordable, so I recommend if you just want really high quality tech house with that dub techno tinge like Sushitech is known for, the reconstructed series is nothing but bombs. Today I'm highlighting the track on the A1. It's called Skank, and that's featuring Paul St. Hilaire's awesome voice, reconstructed by Cobblestone Jazz. The Cobblestone Jazz is Matthew Johnson and a few other folks, kind of like the Moritz von Oswald trio, where it's kind of like featuring the main guy and then a couple of other talented artists as well. When I first listened to the Skank remix, when I first sampled it, I was like, it's kind of boring. I think that might be a miss, or it's kind of half of a flop. And I really wasn't looking at the track from the right perspective. It was not meant to be a progressive track. It's fundamentally a hypnotic track, and when I listened to it in full, I realized that it's kind of a throwback, as I said in my Discogs review when I actually like wrote a review for this a few years ago. It's to me a very obvious throwback to the Maurizio M series. Like it's that level of loopiness where it's just like, all right, we're gonna drop this beat behind the track and just let some of the elements dance over top of it. And here you have a relatively simple, loopy, eerie sounding kind of minor key melody that I think it's kind of like, it's brutally simple, but it's also the signature sound of the track. And Paul's voice coming in and out with some echo and reverb on it is the icing on the cake. So to me, a 5-star remix. And before we go to the sample here, M.A.M.P on the B1, everything, literally everything that M.A.M.P has ever done is super top notch. So if you gosh, just go. If you have any extra money to spend, just start investing in A.M.P records. Those guys are crazy skilled. All right, so anyways, back to the track. Here is Skank, reconstructed by Cobblestone Jazz.
But you over the years, you do it thing. Oh, we don't know. We have to pass. Pass this condition, the situation and state you brought us in. You know. That's why me never youth will love your 10 class. No ras. Because feel a pass. Everyone ends up a cut grass. Of course there must be grass cutters. But what about the math? You see it? What about the physics?
So now moving up to 2024, the last record for this episode. This record was a little bit weird. It was showing on websites like Juno and Red Eye. Red Eye was showing that this was coming in stock, and then for some reason, I guess something went wrong with the pressing at the pressing plant. It just kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. So I was thinking about pre-ordering it, then I canceled the pre-order, and then when it came out, I didn't happen to have any money in my spending account at the time, so I kind of like missed it. And then I recently just went all the way back to it, almost a year later, and finally picked this up. But I like to pick up everything on Luck of Access. The only one that I don't have so far from this entire label is Andrei Pushkarev's Photograph, the white one. I'd really like to get my hands on that one, but they're too expensive and they don't really come up for sale in the States very often. This is a quality release and right in line with what you would expect from the Luck of Access label. The primary artist on here is Stolce. If anybody knows any, I've never really stumbled into this guy, but when I was looking at his catalog before the episode, I noticed that he has a ton of releases going way back, like years and years. So if anybody has any Stolce recommendations, feel free to drop them down in the comments. My two tracks of choice on this really nice looking release, I love the yellow, are the Bermuda Triangle on the A. I almost chose that for this episode, but I ended up going with the Damascus dub Andrei Pushkarev remix on the B2. Not super in love with the B1, like that style of kind of like low-key relaxation dub techno or just dub. Really, it's just not my jam. Like I like to be either fist pumping or dancing or at least like moving and grooving in my chair. So yeah, A and B2. The B2 is the one that I have the sample of for you here, and to me, it's almost like a Sushitech record that was transported over to the Luck of Access record. It's that same kind of like upper mid-tempo vibe that would be great for an opening set, and it's that fusion between tech house and dub techno with like that clubby dance floor energy that really just brings it home. So Andrei Pushkarev, somebody to always look out for. Whenever I see his name on a release, it's kind of like an automatic buy for me, and no exception here. So check out his remix of the Damascus dub. All right, this concludes my Dub Techno 2025 in the box episode. I hope you enjoyed these picks. Feel free to comment down below. I think it helps the algorithm and helps to promote my channel. I don't run any advertisements, so anything you guys can do to help hype up my channel, share my videos would be greatly appreciated. That's all for today, and take care.